Back in the 90s, my friend Brent and I would go exploring old buildings that were abandoned or condemned for fun. We didn't have cell phones at the time, and the most we had was his car, so trespassing and sneaking out alcohol was the most excitement we could really have. We lived in Topeka, Kansas at the time, and if you're from there, you know there's a small area to have fun in, and another that's just boring. Or maybe that was just us since we lived on the boring side. Either way, this was our idea of fun. With empty houses or buildings to explore, we had plenty of new places to choose from. One place in particular we had been wanting to check out was the Topeka State Hospital. It had been closed for a while, and with all the rumors of previous patients haunting the place, we desperately wanted to check it out. We also had never explored in a place so big, so we had to try and figure out the best way to get in and when to do it. We drove by it a couple times to see if there was any type of security around it and to see if there was anything immediate that would hinder us. When we were convinced that it was going to be an easy in, all we had to do was find a time to do it. So to not have our parents asking questions about what we were doing, we told them we would be staying at each other's house and then have the night without any suspicion. Friday night, Brent said he was leaving to come over to my place, and I told my parents he was coming to pick me up, and we were off. We each had a backpack with what our parents thought were our clothes, toothbrush, and deodorant, when in reality, it had our flashlights, a few supplies we brought, like a pocket knife, just in case, and a few snacks to eat while we waited. We learned over time the fewer things we brought, the better, especially if we needed to get out quickly and ditch our bags. We parked several feet up from the building to try to make it not look so suspicious, and sat in the car and ate. We thought we'd kind of scope out the place to see if anyone came by and to get any last-minute jitters out of us. After about half an hour, we decided it was time to go before we chickened out. We approached the building, and not to our surprise, the front door was completely locked and boarded up. So we walked around the side, seeing if there was any other way in, when Brent noticed a window that had been broken out and haphazardly boarded up with a no trespassing sign attached to it. Now, the boards weren't the best, so it was pretty easy to pry off with just our hands and the little hammer we had with us. So Brent went in first and helped me in, and that was the start of a very long night. Once in, we turned on our flashlight, put on our backpacks, and started looking around. Immediately, the smell hit me. It was very musty, like what a damp old room would smell like. The paint or wallpaper was eerily peeling on the walls, but the oddest part for me was how still the air was. I motioned to Brent to stop for a second, just to try and listen, and the only thing you could hear was our slight breaths. You couldn't even hear the sounds of the bugs outside. It was just one of those moments that was hard to explain. However, we didn't want to waste a lot of time and started moving on. We looked through the rooms where the doors were already open and saw much of what you would expect. Bare shelves, broken bed frames and chairs. The restroom stalls were all broken, and some of the toilets just busted. There was a lot of graffiti everywhere too, so we obviously weren't the only ones that had been here. As we looked around and just took in what all we were seeing, we heard what sounded like someone walking slowly above us. A little scared, but also not ready to leave yet, we decided to go up to the second floor to check it out. The stairs were not something I'd want to walk on more than once, but the railing seemed sturdy enough. We made our way up there to see more of the same. Creepy, dark hallways, spray-painted doors and walls, and those yellow file folders scattered on the ground. While here, we again heard more footsteps, but nothing else with it. We were just about to head to the 3rd floor when Brent turned around to look down the hall again that we were just at. Nothing there again. We got this far without anyone showing up, so we wanted to get all the way to the top. We climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, where we were greeted with the door slamming this time. I think Brent was a little fed up at this point, with us both not being fazed by ghost stories, or at least not willing to admit it, so he shouted out, "We are not here to harm anyone or anything." After wincing at hearing him unexpectedly calling out, we waited in silence, but heard nothing, not even the footsteps. We both looked at each other and let out a quiet laugh and continued on. Looking around the rooms, I saw some really old clothes that looked like they had been disintegrating over time, just sitting in the corner of a room. In the same room, I started smelling sulfur. It was almost like there were fireworks going off right in front of me. I walked out of the room quickly and across to where Brent was, who claimed he didn't smell anything at first. I brought him over to the other room where he could then smell it. As we started leaving the room, though, the door to the room he was in slowly closed. As I mentioned earlier, there was no airflow in the place. It was still. So there was no way a draft blew this door shut. We stared at the door for several minutes when we started hearing the footsteps again, but then they seemed to be quicker than before and getting louder. We walked over by the stairs slowly and waited. That's when I felt a really cold breeze brush by my back, and I very clearly heard the word "out" whispered in my ear. I was done. I took off downstairs, Brent following right behind me, and when I got to the bottom, I leaped out the window we came through and waited as Brent crouched down to do the same. As he was doing this, it sounded like someone was running towards us. I yelled at Brent to hurry up when he nearly dived out the window to get out. We quickly took off towards his car, not caring if anyone saw us, and just sat in the car, staring at this place for several more minutes to calm down. After a while, we both asked each other if we heard the voice, and that's why we both started running. So at least I know I wasn't the only one. As mentioned, I didn't really believe in the paranormal, but after that experience and reading more about what took place there, I can definitely believe former patients are sadly trapped in there. Brent and I still remember this, but we have not told a single person about it, but have kept this as a personal experience that we will never forget.